The last thing I expected was to fall in love with my best friend's husband. But there I was, tangled in Louis' sheets, his hands tracing the curve of my hip, when the front door slammed. Joyce's voice cut through the silence. "Louis? Are you home?" 3 months earlier, the idea of swapping partners had seemed like a joke, a reckless game between two unhappy couples. Howard and I had been married for 7 years, though married felt generous. We were roommates who shared a bed, his back perpetually turned to me as he scrolled through stock charts. Joyce and Louis, our neighbors and closest friends, weren't faring better. Joyce had confided in me over Pinot Grigio. "Louis hasn't looked at me in months. It's like we're ghosts." The proposal came on a humid June night. We'd gathered for dinner on their patio, the air thick with cicada songs and unmet needs. Joyce, ever the provocateur, slammed her wineglass down. "What if we swapped? Just for a night? A social experiment." Howard chuckled nervously. Louis stared at his hands. I said nothing, my pulse throbbing in my ears. It started with rules. No feelings, no repeats, no secrets. The first swap was at our house. Joyce kissed Howard's cheek, her laugh brittle as she led him upstairs. Louis lingered in the hallway, his gaze heavy on me. "You okay?" he asked. I wasn't. His touch was nothing like Howard's. When Louis' fingers brushed my wrist, it wasn't a demand, it was a question. "May I?" His mouth explored me like I was a map to something lost. Afterward, he held me as I shook, my cheek against his chest. "Catherine," he murmured, and my name had never sounded so sacred. Downstairs, Joyce's shrill laugh echoed. Howard's voice, flat and bored. "Can we turn the light off?" At 2 a.m., Louis left. I lay awake replaying his whispers. "You're extraordinary." The guilt came later. Joyce held up the silver hoop earring like it was a murder weapon. "Found this in my bed," she said, her voice trembling. "Yours, isn't it?" I forced a laugh, too loud. "Oh, I lost that weeks ago. Girls' night, remember? We were all drunk on your porch." She didn't blink. "Funny. It was wedged under Louis' pillow." The lie tasted sour. "Must fallen out of my purse when I borrowed your charger." I reached for it, but she snapped her fist shut. "Right," she said flatly. "You should be more careful." The affair became a drug after that. Louis and I met in cheap motels off Interstate 95, rooms that reeked of bleach and regret. He'd pin me against the door the second it closed, his mouth hungry, hands rough with desperation. "I think about you all day," he'd growl, and I'd let him push me onto scratchy sheets, let him drown out the voice in my head that whispered, "You're destroying everything." One afternoon, as rain lashed the window, Louis gripped my chin. "Leave Howard. Come live with me." I froze. We agreed, no feelings. "Screw the rules," he said, biting my shoulder. "You're mine now." Joyce tried to fix what wasn't broken. She showed up at our house Thursday nights with home-cooked meals, wearing Howard's old college sweatshirt. "Thought we could reconnect," she'd say, touching his arm. Howard would grunt, eyes glued to the TV, until she'd retreat to the kitchen, scrubbing dishes like they'd insulted her. "Why do you bother?" I asked her once, watching her polish a wine glass raw. She glared at me. "Because someone has to try." The guilt metastasized. I bought Joyce tulips, her favorite, and left them on her doorstep. Louis found out and slammed me against his truck in the Kroger parking lot. "You still care about her more than me?" His kiss was violent, possessive. When I pulled away, he grabbed my wrist. "Don't push me." That night, Howard rolled over in bed, his hand grazing my thigh. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd finally see me. Instead, he sighed. "Can you pick up my dry cleaning tomorrow?" I stared at the ceiling, tears hot. "Sure." The end began with cherry red lipstick. Joyce texted me a photo at 11:47 p.m. Louis' white collar, smudged with crimson. "Come over now." My hands shook as I drove. I rehearsed lies. Must be from a client. A waitress spilled wine. She opened the door holding his shirt, her face corpse pale. "It's your shade," she said. The world tilted. Louis appeared behind her, eyes wild. "Cat, I can explain." Joyce whirled, slapping him so hard his head snapped sideways. "You swore it was over." I backed toward the car, but Joyce lunged, nails raking my arm. "You did this!" she screamed. "You bitch!" Tires screeched as I fled. In the rear view, Louis stood frozen on the lawn, Joyce crumpled at his feet. Howard was waiting when I stumbled through the door, his silhouette rigid in the kitchen's fluorescent light. He held up the crumpled hotel receipt like a verdict. "Doubletree, room 217. Care to explain?" My throat tightened. It's a work thing. A client meeting ran late." "Bullshit." His voice cracked. "I called your office. You weren't there. You haven't been there." Rain lashed the windows as he stepped closer, his breath sour with bourbon. "Who is Louis?" I fled to the bathroom, locking the door. My phone buzzed. "Louis. Meet me." "Nah." I texted back. "Can't. It's over." His reply was instant. "You don't get to end this." 3 days later, Louis cornered me in the grocery store parking lot. His fingers dug into my arm as he shoved me against his truck. "You think you can just walk away?" His kiss was a brand, hot and punishing. "You're mine," he hissed. "Say it." "I'm yours," I whispered, the words ash in my mouth. He smirked, slipping a hand under my skirt. "Prove it." Right there, in broad daylight, with soccer moms and toddlers passing by. I let him. Shame coiled in my gut, but my body betrayed me, arching into his touch. When it was over, he tucked a stray hair behind my ear. "Tonight. My place." Howard didn't come home. I found him passed out on the couch, my phone in his lap. The screen glowed with Louis' texts. "I need you." "Nah. You taste like heaven. Tell me you love me." Howard's eyes fluttered open, bloodshot and hollow. "How long?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came. He hurled the phone at the wall. "Get out." I went to Louis. He answered the door shirtless, a smirk playing on his lips. "Knew you'd crack." I shoved past him. "Joyce knows. Howard knows. This ends tonight." He grabbed my waist, spinning me toward him. "You don't mean that." His mouth found my neck, teeth grazing the pulse point. "You're addicted to me." I pushed him off. "This is killing me." "Good." He backed me against the wall. "That means you're alive." The invitation arrived Saturday morning. Neighborhood barbecue at Joyce v. Louis. Let's pretend we're normal. I wore long sleeves to hide the scratches on my arms. Joyce greeted me with a venomous smile, handing me a margarita. "So glad you came." Halfway through the party, she clinked a knife against her glass. "Everyone, let's play a game." Her voice dripped honey. 2 truths and a lie. "I'll start." The crowd quieted. 1. I've never cheated on my husband. 2. My best friend's a backstabbing whore. 3. This potato salad is store-bought. Laughter died. She pointed at me. "Your turn, Kat." Louis froze. Beer bottle mid-air. Howard stared at his shoes. Joyce stepped closer. "What's the matter? Can't handle the truth?" I turned to leave, but she grabbed my wrist. "You wrecked us." The crowd murmured. Howard stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. Louis lunged between us. "Joyce, stop." "No." She whipped out her phone, projecting a photo onto the patio screen. Louis and me in the Kroger parking lot, his hand under my skirt. Gasps rippled. "This is your social experiment?" Joyce spat. Howard stormed out. Louis reached for me, but I stumbled back, tripping over the cooler. As I scrambled to my feet, Joyce leaned in, her whisper ablade. "Enjoy hell." Howard left the divorce papers on the kitchen counter, a Polaroid of Louis taped to the front like a trophy. In the photo, Louis was shirtless, smirking at the camera, the same way Head smirked at me that first night. Scrawled in red Sharpie across the top, "Sign them, or I'll ruin you." I stared at the words until they blurred. The house felt airless, like a tomb. He walked in an hour later, suit crisp, eyes dead. "Well?" "You took the photo," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "When?" "Last week. Followed you to that motel on 5th Street. He loosened his tie, the gesture casual, as if we were discussing the weather. "You're predictable, Catherine. What do you want? Money? The house? I want you gone." He leaned in, Close enough that I smelled his aftershave. Sharp, sterile, nothing like Louis' sweat and whiskey scent. Sign by noon tomorrow, or I email these photos to your boss. Your parents. Everyone. Louis called 17 times. I answered on the 18th. Where are you? He demanded. The park. I sat on a bench, watching kids chase ducks. Normal people. Normal lives. He found me in 10 minutes. His knuckles were bruised, jaw shadowed with stubble. Joyce changed the locks, he said, collapsing beside me. Took my damn dog. Good. He flinched. Don't do this. Well, leave tonight. Start over. I laughed. Hollow. With what? I've got $43 in my account. I don't care. He gripped my thigh, fingers digging. You're all I need. His mouth crashed into mine, teeth clashing, hands yanking my hair. I kissed him back harder, anger and want twisting into something ugly. When he pushed me onto the grass, I didn't stop him. Let the joggers stare. Let the world burn. Afterward, he nuzzled my neck. See? We're meant for this. I shoved him off. You're a disease. Joyce's revenge went viral by dusk. Shed created a Facebook album, My Life as a Doormat. Photos of Louis and me at the motel, screenshots of our texts, even a video of Howard sobbing drunk on their porch. The caption, share if you hate cheaters. My phone exploded. Colleagues, cousins, high school friends. How could you? You disgust me. Die. Homewrecker. I turned it off and opened a bottle of Merlot. Louis came back at midnight, pounding on the door. Let me in. Howard was gone, his closet half empty, wedding ring left in the sink. I opened the door. Louis looked feral. They're saying I hit Joyce. That I abused her. You gotta tell them it's lies. Did you? What? Hit her. He hesitated. A beat too long. I tried to shut the door, but he wedged his foot in. It was one time. She wouldn't stop screaming about you. I threw my wine glass at his head. It shattered against the wall. Get out. He grabbed my wrists, pinning me to the floor. You're mine, he snarled. You don't get to quit. I need him in the groin. He crumpled, swearing, and I ran. The suitcase was dusty, shoved under the bed. I packed haphazardly, jeans, toothbrush, the pearl necklace my mom gave me before she died. Louis' texts lit up my burner phone. I'm sorry. Please. I love you. Howard's deadline loomed. Sign or be destroyed. Joyce's Facebook post had 10K shares. I zipped the bag shut. The highway hummed outside. East or west? Freedom or another cage? My hand hovered over my keys. Then, knocking. Soft, tentative. Not Louis' fists. Joyce stood on the porch, face gaunt, holding a Ziploc bag of dog treats. Buddy's with me, she said. He keeps whining at your door. I broke. Sobs racked my chest, ugly and raw. She didn't hug me. Just stood there silent until I choked out. I'm sorry. I know, she said. Then quieter. Me too. She left the treats on the step. I drove west until the highway bled into desert. Louis' voicemails buzzing like flies in my glove box. You'll come crawling back, he rasped in the last one. I pulled over, tossed the burner phone into a canyon, and watched it shatter on the rocks below. 3 states later, a gas station TV flashed news of a Pennsylvania house fire. Arson suspected. Owner Howard Miller in custody. The screen showed our charred home, our wedding photo curling in the flames. I bought a stale coffee and kept driving. The divorce papers arrived at a Reno motel. Howard's signature was slashed so hard it tore the page. I signed without reading, left the envelope at the front desk, and slept for 14 hours. Joyce called once. I let it ring, but she left a voicemail. Buddy died. Thought you'd want to know. Her voice was flat, emptied of rage. I cried into a scratchy pillow, remembering how Head slept curled at my feet, how Louis used to joke the dog loved me more. I found work at a diner off Route 50. Nights, I served truckers and runaways. Days, I chain-smoked on the fire escape, watching crows pick at roadkill. Sometimes I'd Google them. Louis Grant, arrested for DUI, fistfight outside a Philly bar. Joyce Grant, Nay Bennett launched a Scorned Wives podcast. Top 10 in True Crime. Howard Miller. Sentenced to 18 months. Declared bankruptcy. I never searched my own name. Lewis found me in December. I was wiping ketchup bottles when the bell jingled. His laugh, that low, nicotine growl, froze my blood. Well, well. Look who's playing waitress. He straddled a stool, wedding ring gone, knuckles tattooed with fresh ink. Cat on the left hand. Leave, I said. Or what? He licked syrup off the menu. You'll throw me out? Again. My manager glanced over. I forced a smile. Need coffee, sir? He leaned close, reeking of whiskey and gasoline. Missed you, baby. I poured the scalding pot onto his lap. He screamed, toppling backward, and the truckers cheered. Crazy bitch. He spat, limping out. My hands shook as I mopped the floor, but I didn't cry. The lawyer's email came at 3 a.m. Divorce finalized. Howard waived alimony. Attached, a JPEG of our marriage license, stamped void. I walked to the desert's edge that night, the air biting cold, and burned the only photo ID kept. Us at Niagara Falls, 2017, drenched and laughing. Howard's arm around my waist. My smile wide enough to hide the cracks. Now I live in a trailer with a broken AC and a view of Red Rock cliffs. Some nights when the wind howls, I imagine it's Joyce screaming, or Lewis crashing his car into the ravine, or Howard sobbing as the jail cell clangs shut. Mostly, I think of the tulips. ID planted a row in Joyce's garden that last spring, pink and yellow petals bright against her perfect lawn. Shed hugged me, sticky with sunscreen, and said, "You always know what I need." The ashes of that life are buried here, in the dust. I water them with tequila and regret. Was it worth it? Ask me tomorrow. Thank you for following this journey of lust, betrayal, and consequences. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more raw, real tales. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a chapter of life's darkest dramas. Stay fierce, and remember, not all experiments end in love.